of San Antonio. I'm Irene Vincent. This is Natalie Hardy here with me. And welcome to Facebook Live, the broadcast of Kairos TV. And we are just so happy today that we've got some special guests here. And I just want to welcome you too. This is dear Gary Osborn. He is the co-founder of CalTex in this city, and probably most of you have heard that name here, but just welcome. And then also, we're really privileged to have Preston Woolfolk here with us today, and he's from DOCUmation.
Yes, ma'am.
DOCUmation. This is a really up-and-coming business in this city, and I keep hearing the name, and so yes.
We hope so.
So we just want to welcome you too, and this is what we want to do today. Is because we do San Antonio Christian Leaders Forum, and in the forum we're talking about the 7 mountains, and Gary's part of what we do. And so in the forum we're talking about these 7 mountains, 7 spheres of influence in our city. And come on, this business world is part of the spheres of influence in our city. And so this is why we're interviewing these 2 today, so that you can get an idea of how perhaps even your business, or perhaps you could begin to pray for businesses so that they too could be an influence in our city. So getting to that point, okay, it's going to talking to 2, but I'll talk to 1. Okay, first of all, because I've known Gary for quite a long time, and bless you, Gary, for doing this for us. Yeah, this is just wonderful. I just want to ask you then, how would you describe the kind of atmosphere and culture that evolved in your company, which made it separate or different?
Good question. So we purposed in our company to basically just get rid of the barriers or the walls, if you will, between community, church, family, and business.
Wow.
Because most of the time in business, you'll hear people say business is one thing and church and community is different, family is different, but we don't look at it that way. We feel like that that business should feel the same way, and people should get the same kind of support in business when they go to work as they do if they're home or in their community or in their church. So we did a number of things to develop and foster that culture. So that people would go to work and feel like they were still at home or have gone to church or were in their community. So we tried to level those walls and have it all feel the same way.
I guess still at home in as far as it's comfortable and loving.
Loving, nurturing,
Yeah.
and supportive.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes. Well, that's an incredible concept, because that's not most people's experience of
Correct.
a working life. But could I ask you, Preston, because I'm thinking, how do people really view this concept of a working life being, as Gary has expressed? Because most people think of work as totally separate to church life or home life, but I am convinced that there should not be any separation. It should be one overlapping thing, but frankly the church does not understand that either.
Correct.
And so I really think, how can we get the church to understand that people who spend most of their lives is Monday to Friday, is elsewhere, it's not sitting in church. So how can we assure people that this is a valid ministry?
I think, you know, you're going to see this in the New Testament where we talk about the different gifts that are handed to everybody,
Yes.
right? Whether you're the head or the heart or the
Yes.
soul or the
Yes.
arms or the hands, you
Yes.
know, of the church body. I think it's the same way with business as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
We obviously understand. We use different words for it, right? We call it strengths finder. We call it personality test. We say
Okay.
they've got experience or they've done things throughout their life that bring value to this business. And I think that same concept of saying we want our church body to be full of business people. We want our church body to be full of teachers. We want them to be full of politicians and ministers, and never too weighted one way or the other. How do we combine those elements together and make sure that the church understands that that vibrant community that you see in the business is the same thing that we're having in both areas?
Okay.
So
Yes, and I think that's important. Now, some time back within the church, there was this concept of apostolic people in the marketplace. Did you hear that sort of language?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It wasn't widely received, but what's your feeling about that, Gary?
Well, I frankly believe that there are apostolic people in the marketplace. I think that there are, I think that the church, I think that God is restoring apostolic people to the church, and I think that God is restoring apostolic people to the marketplace. I think it's a very important time for that right now. So when I look at businesses and I look at the people in those businesses, I look for those apostolic appointments.
Okay.
And I think that, frankly, I think that's what God is doing. I think Mr. Bentonbow is a very good example of an apostolic appointment in business.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think that we need to be looking for those because I think they're there.
I think you're right about that, Gary. I think this is part of what God is doing now. When this concept was first started being talked about by the church, people didn't understand it. But now people are beginning to understand that there's more to being a Christian than just going to church on Sunday morning. It's life in its totality. So when we go out to work on Monday through Friday, we're still a Christian. We're still serving God there in the marketplace.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
this almost seems to be a return back to how business used to run. I mean, there's strong evidence throughout history that business owners in that community or the town in which they ran that business, they were not only the employer, but they built the homes.
Yep.
You lived in community homes. You fed everybody. You clothed everybody, because the business owner understood that a strong business is made by a strong community, right?
Yes.
That you want the overall welfare. I mean, this is, if you really look at the concepts of healthcare, why does the business subsidize healthcare? It's because the business has an interest in keeping their employees healthy, productive, back to work. I mean, it's not a win-lose. It's a win-win for everybody, right? It's a good mutual understanding. And I don't know, maybe 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, we've kind of shifted away from that into this strong division, right, of the business community and the church community. And now you're seeing that kind of shift back the other direction, saying, why don't we get back to our roots of making sure strong communities build strong businesses, and vice versa.
I read a historical article concerning our city along those lines, which fascinated me. With the Pearl Brewery used to have a huge housing area all around it, and that low people, Hispanic people, would, but not necessarily low paid, because they paid them quite well compared with others, would live there and had an excellent life and a community. And they were cared for even to their old age, and there was an interest and a compassion for them. And all that went with the new construction, etc. But and I thought, what a concept! It was like I come from England, and so there you had the Lord of the Manor and all his workers, and he was Lord of the Manor, but he was like father to everybody. And that attitude, well, perhaps we're going to get back to that in business. What a thought.
Yeah, you have a responsibility for all of your employees. So anybody that you employ, it's business. It doesn't matter if you're in the church business, you have a responsibility for everybody that's under that roof, you know. So it doesn't necessarily mean just profits. It means taking care of everybody, fostering them, growing them, developing them, taking care of the families as an extension of that. And that's really the purpose of the business, It
is.
Yes.
That's right.
You see this in CalTex. We've been over to CalTex a few times, and we like to model our business after what Gary and his team has set up, because it's absolutely amazing to watch a culture at work where that whole win-win, right? The business, the personal, the home, the community, the church environment, everything there together, knowing that everybody's being taken care of, right? But the company is still excelling. The company is doing amazing. You
don't have to sacrifice
No.
profits, and growth. Actually, the business grows because you're taking care of all your employees and their families.
Say that again. Are you listening? Say that again.
You don't have to sacrifice growth and profits. It actually accelerates growth and profit when you take care of your employees and their families, and you grow them. If your purpose is to grow people first, your business will grow.
That's amazing.
You
Yeah.
see, what we're really talking about, viewers, is kingdom principles here. It's a kingdom principle that we love one another, we care for one another, that we are doing what we do for the glory of God.
Yeah.
We're not, bottom line is not what we're going to make and how we're going to use people. It's how we serve the living God.
Yep.
And that concept obviously is not going to be in the minds of those who are non-Christian employers, but I still think that there is something which can spill over.
Yep.
Because there, even within the gospel, we are salt and light, and we are a manifestation of Christ. As he fills our lives, we manifest Christ. And so these businesses, viewers, understand this, look, these businesses which incorporate the life of Christ into every aspect of life within that company, they are a manifestation of Christ in the city. And so they will make other businesses concerned and perhaps interested. Why is their culture so healthy? Why are their people so happy? Why are they being looked after so well? And why are people wanting to work there and not there? Perhaps those questions could be asked.
You know, I think, Eileen, part of that is because what we're talking about really is love. It's just love. And people don't talk about love in a business context, but it is love.
Yes.
And we are City Regions for the love of San Antonio. We love all of this city, but we love the people, we love the Lord, and I believe that as Christian leaders, Christian business leaders, take love into their businesses, the people, the employees will know it, and they will want to sow into that business as well.
And that's not easy.
No.
That's probably one of the hardest part of working in a business and running a business is that extra step, right? It's a lot easier to manage performance. It's a lot easier to sit behind a desk and look at spreadsheets and look at your financials and watch it from a metrics basis. It's not easy to get down there and to spend time with people, discuss with people, get to know them, right? And things get a little more gray. Things get a little bit more nitty gritty in terms of life, and you've got to connect with them, but in the same way, with us connecting with our employees, letting them to get to know our families and our life, and it's okay to have struggles and things that you're working through, and to have those elements as part of that because they're that family with you. So, so that's the harder step, and I think that's why it's hard for us always to naturally. I think most of us naturally will kind of rely on the metrics or the performance models, right?
That's the easy part.
It's just easy, That's just once you get the math down, you can pretty much focus on that. It's hard to really get into connection with your employees.
And it's hard to lead other people into that cultural experience.
Sure.
Okay.
Because most people are used to, leaving their desk and they have a task and they're going to go, I'm going to leave my desk and go to Preston's desk and I just need to use him to get my task done.
Yep.
Right? I didn't know that he's going through a divorce or he's going through a difficult time or he lost a child or whatever. Because I'm not going to take the time to find out because I need to get my task done and go back to my job.
Yep.
So we have to lead people into this relational type of culture where we take the time to get to know how Preston's doing and how his family's doing. And if he is going through something like that, spend some time with him and find out how things are going on. And that's the hard part, is leading people to that kind of relational culture, I think.
I'm just thinking about non-Christian businesses. Because what we're talking about is almost so different, aren't they? Ways of working and the expectations are so completely opposite here. But there was an issue, what I consider would be a fundamental one, is character. Because when you're employers, so you can employ anybody out of this vast city here, before us, you're not quite sure what you're getting when you bring that person in, but character matters. And character influence in a whole scenario of your sorts. And the wrong apple in there could cause a lot of trouble.
Correct.
But so how do how do you do that? Because you're not just choosing Christian people to work for you, are you?
No, not at all. No. You know, we want, what's interesting you bring that up, we call them our three pillars of our company. Our tagline is character, community, customer.
Okay.
We call them the 3 C's at DOCUmation: character, community, customer. And, you know, this character one works for you and against you quite often. So, you know, because when you hold yourself to that standard, your employees hold you to that standard.
Yes.
And when we have a lot of, you know, conversations, we had an issue a few months ago with something where maybe some of our customers, we had seen that there was a small area here where that's where we probably get the worst feedback from, right? And how do we improve that? And our employees, what was wonderful to see was they asked themselves the question, how does this show our character? How does this serve the customer? You know, and how does this affect the community? And whether the decision is going to meet those 3 principles. And quite often, you know, you might have an employee in our office look at us and say something like, well, is that the right character call on that one? And, you know, that changes everything, right? Because you're having our employees hold everybody in the company to that same standard. And so we say a lot of times we hire the right person and put them in the right job, not necessarily the other way around. We don't hire somebody for skills, we hire the right person.
Right.
And that's hard to find. That's a strict hiring process. It's a strict adherence to your core values and trying to find the right people that look for those core values. And we know that our employees make or break our company. So we have to be very, very hesitant about who we bring into the company because they lend influence one way or the other.
Yes, yes.
That's right.
And so
Yes.
how do we find people that raise the overall standard of the company? Or how do we find people that challenge others and improve the character of the company? Not necessarily either match it or bring it below. And that's a judgment call, but it's also it's the consolidation of the team inside the company looking for the right people as well.
Preston, you're so right about that. It is not easy to do at all. It's very difficult, and we use peer reviews. That's one of the things we count on a lot. In fact, we put more emphasis into peer reviews than we do in leadership reviews, because we feel like those character qualities, if we've done a good job in hiring people in the past, and they get that character, we're hiring for character and not for skill, which is exactly the same thing we do, then they're going to be looking for the right cultural fit and the right character fit. And so to get hired, you know, in our business, somebody probably has to go through somewhere between 5 and 8 interviews. And the 4 of those at least are going to be peer interviews. And so we really lean heavily on what their peers really think about fit. Yeah.
Well, and I suppose that's understandable. They're going to work with us.
That's right. Yeah.
So they're going to cross swords,
Yep.
or they're going to hug.
That's right.
Yeah.
And love each other.
You're going to see them a lot more than you see your spouse.
That's
so,
right.
you know,
That
unfortunately.
is an incredible fact, but it's
Yes,
true.
absolutely
Yes,
true.
Yes,
It is.
yes. And so, goodness, we've got a job on our hands to make sure that the workplace is an enjoyable place.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I can see that you gentlemen are working hard at that. Yes.
Here's just another very, very, very basic question. How many employees do you have in your individual businesses that you're employing these practices towards?
I think right now, probably this month, I think we're up to about 135 or so. We're
Wow.
growing right now, so
That's nice.
we've got a sizable amount of
I think
employees.
we have about 127 right
Oh,
now.
wonderful.
It's very similar in size and scope.
Wow, that's great. So it doesn't matter how big or how small the company is, you can employ these same principles.
Oh, yes.
So hear that, it's for everybody. Every business can do this.
Yes.
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 So was it hard for you to transition into this type of leadership in your business? Or were you always this way when you started your business?
That's a good question. I wasn't always this way. I really developed into this. And I think one of the things that helped me really get a real good vision for this was when we decided to be an employee-owned company. Not that you have to be an employee-owned company to really develop this kind of culture and view of business, but I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it was that God really spoke to me and gave me a almost like a picture of how a company could function like this. And it was very simple, but I really it stuck with me for years. And as the years went on, I began to see more and more of it unfold. And of course, that kind of bolstered my faith that this really can be done. And so it was it was a transition process for me to get there.
Awesome.
Could I just interject with another question? How long did that take you?
It took 20 years.
Yeah. Okay. And so how long have you been in business also, Preston?
Let's see, we've been going under the DOCUmation name since 1998. Previous to that, we go back to 1990. So we're about to celebrate our 30-year
So,
Wow.
you're
company
both
history.
long term.
Yeah,
We're
Okay.
celebrating our 35th year.
35th.
Okay.
Yeah. And I will credit, for to answer your question, Natalie, our grandfather. So we're a third-generation business. And so our grandfather really, his mentality, his philosophy, his beliefs is very philanthropic. It's very give back. You know, he'll tell a story about how, you know, somewhere in his 50s or 60s, he had already done well. He had already, you know, bought and sold companies in the past. And he has talked about how his response to that maybe was the things, right? The things that come with that.
Yes.
And how it necessarily did not make their life better. Their quality of life did not increase by just accumulating things, right?
Right.
And it changed for them in their 50s or so, their behavior, the mentality, and upon founding our business as a retirement project, actually for our grandfather, that he set in force these principles of, you know, sharing with the employees, right? Making sure there were profit sharing programs in place, very similar to an ESOP concept. But making sure that the mission of the company was to give back to the community. The mission was not to liquidate profits out of the business, right, and just sell a good product, but that there was our best presidents, our best leaders in history always give people a plan or a mission, right? And he's given us a mission, and he's given it from day one. And we won't always adhere to it. It's not easy to stick on that mission, but every now and then you get back, you get refocused, and your mission is to say we would like to do well, to take care of our employees, and also to give back to this community that we live in. That's what's best for San Antonio is best for us, and vice versa. So.
That's great.
Well, this nation's got a huge, fantastic example in Hobby Lobby.
Yes.
And David Green.
Sure.
And that's the correct name, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, and that's just, I read that book and I was just amazed at the heart of generosity. Do you see that the business area of our city should be somehow connected with the city in philanthropic activities and giving back to, you do see this?
Yeah, I would believe that
Yes.
it's a mandate for them, you know,
Yes.
that the best companies here in town, I mean, they're a part of everything. I mean, nowadays you can't find some of our business leaders, their names are almost on every building, but, you know, they're doing specific, ministries here in town. Christian Hope Resource Center, a fantastic, right,
Yes.
ministry here on the west side of town, watching these new buildings get built, these new programs that is actually a holistic approach to solving problems,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
And
yes.
watching the business leaders here in town, whether Christian or not,
Yes.
them giving back and saying, this is important because this is important for us to be generous, right?
Yes.
And I think most of you know, I'm not going to tie the wealth gospel, but I will say that there's a commonality between generosity and wealthier individuals, especially on the older end, that they've learned something in their life that,
Yes.
you know, when you get, you give. It's just a basic concept.
That's right.
Right, and they
And,
just,
you
I'm not
know-
going to say they're always going to be blessed, but they
Yes.
are, their life is more full for it. They're happier people, and they're just
Exactly.
very generous people in general.
God is generous.
Yeah,
Yes,
he
he
is.
is.
Yeah,
He's
very
just
much so.
generous.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I think this is a thrilling thought because, you know, there is an aspect of, you read it in Christian magazines, you hear it spoken, the pastor's just looking at the business people because they're going to be like you can milk them. They're the money. And so, but it's a wrong
It's the
attitude.
wrong attitude, exactly.
And it's something that we don't want to go there. And it could make many business people feel like this.
Yeah.
And I can understand that because we can't demand, but we can expect business people as well as everybody else sitting in church on Sunday to have a God-given heart of generosity.
Yes,
And that some are more able to give more than others. And if we are in Christian business, or in business, there is money there which can be plowed back
Yep.
into the community.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to this sweeping move of God behind us here, that represents many, many different ministries across the city. All kinds of ministries are involved in, whether it's families or whether it's education or whatever it is. There's ministries involved, families and marriages and the elderly, and those ministries all need finance. And sometimes they're small, and sometimes they get overlooked. And it's just, a company might say, I want to build this, and then I've done something. But I think this is just like putting some salt on your food. You can make everything taste a little bit better. And so you can sprinkle a little of it and make everything taste a little bit better. Anything further to say, my love?
No, I think we're covering it. But is there anything particular that you would like to say to San Antonio's business community about how they can have businesses like your business that are doing what you guys are doing in terms of how you run the business? Just speak to the people.
Go ahead.
No, you go first.
Okay. I would just say that it is possible to be profitable and be generous and to care and really positively affect not only the community but your employees. The thing that I would hope that the San Antonio business community would see is that our community needs business people, business leaders, business owners that are willing to pour back into the community. And hopefully that's something that we all recognize and that we can do. And if we all play a part in it, this community could be the best community to live in, the best community to work in, and the best community in America. It honestly could be.
Amen.
We could be an example.
Absolutely.
And I would, what advice would we give? I would say, I don't think I have specific advice other than learning from other companies that have done it well. So for us, we got the benefit and the encouragement from CalTex to come visit companies like them. We have a lot of relationships with other businesses here in San Antonio where we get to just go see their culture, see their behavior, see how they're modeling after that. And I think the biggest core concept that I've seen in each one of them is the quality of the people they're hiring, but it's a team-based approach. It's not us. Right. It's not any one individual. It's not me. It's not Gary. It's not my grandfather. You can set the framework, but you got to hire the right people that have that heart, that same generosity, that same drive in life to, the best leaders, the best managers are the ones that are out there helping develop, grow people, and they're not trying to just grab and get and protect their own, right? They're really trying to foster that. And I think that generosity and that heart just overflows into the community. It overflows into your employees. And through them, those employees and their families are an outflow as well as to where they live. How do we just keep multiplying that same philosophy? I mean, with
servant leadership.
130 employees, 2-3 person family. I mean, you could have 600 individuals roughly associated with your business that somehow that are relying economically as well as just on day to day around there. How do you get them to get involved into that servant leadership mentality as well?
Right.
And it's one beautiful thought is that if they encompass that in their hearts in the workplace, they can carry it wherever they go.
That's right.
And they can be lights in this city of ours, which we love.
Absolutely.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, before we close today, I just want to mention something that you brought up, Gary. You mentioned a company, Beaton Bow Homes. We are bringing Beaton Bow Homes here to San Antonio. They are a very, very successful home building company right here in Texas, in Lubbock. And we're bringing them here to San Antonio as a blessing to our business community. They're doing this and more. And we really want to encourage the business leaders of San Antonio, with them. And so we want to ask you to pray for the business leaders of this city, pray for CalTex, pray for DOCUmation, pray for any business owner that you know.
Yes, yes.
Businesses in your neighborhood, in your community that you drive past every day. Pray that the businesses in San Antonio will begin to do what we were talking about here, so that we are seeing this happening all over the city.
Absolutely.
And our prayers can go everywhere. We're not limited by geography, by being in any one particular place. We can pray and touch everything at the same time. So we're encouraging you to pray for the businesses of San Antonio to adopt this, so that they see the city, they see the kingdom of God, they see the people in their businesses as those to whom they are ministering or blessing and enabling to do good things and more things in our city. And so we want you to pray about these things. I'm going to pray as we close here today, and then we'll turn it back over to Eileen. Father, we just want to thank you for this opportunity to discuss this very, very important topic of kingdom work in businesses in our city. We pray that you will bless our city's business leaders, particularly the Christian ones, to open their eyes to see the bigger thing that you can do in them and through them, how you can use them to bless their employees, to raise up their employees to be those who contribute positively not only to the business but to the city as a whole, and to them to see that what they are doing is ministry in and of itself. And I pray, Father, for DOCUmation and CalTex, for Preston, for Gary, for the work that they are doing in San Antonio. I pray that you'll bless their hands, bless everything that they put their hand to do, bless their companies, bless their businesses, bless their families. We ask you that you would sow into their lives because of all the things that they are sowing through their businesses. We're going to thank you now for doing it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much for watching today, and I trust you've really enjoyed this time. It's quite an interesting subject for us all to examine, and you can watch us again. Go to our Facebook page and just see, because we post many interesting things on there, and things, events coming up, and we want you continuously to be praying over events in this city. Pray just for the life of God to fill every aspect of this wonderful city of ours. And this is City Reachers for the love of San Antonio, and we truly do love this city. And we love you, and we encourage you to continue to pray.
Amen.